What? The food? What? I mean, this is an area of history that's just like so deep.
And over the baguette.
Themes of empire, mission, inheritance, and destiny. Hello and welcome back to What the Food. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome. This is a podcast that uncovers the fascinating origin stories of dishes, food items and drinks from all over the world, popular and obscure. My name's Miles and as always I'm here with Andy.
It's me, I'm here.
It's our mission to delve into history and to try to understand why and how we eat. How and why?
How and why we eat.
Why and how?
Why do we
Jesus
eat?
Christ. I was supposed to say delve into history to try and understand how and why we eat the food that we eat, but it was why and how, which is just the wrong way around.
Yeah. Well, is it how? Do we talk about how we eat the food?
I guess not.
Because like that, usually it's the same for every food. That'd be pretty boring.
Yeah. Now we're in the segment of the show where we discuss how it's eaten. So I pick it up with both hands. So we're going to be looking at a very interesting looking dish today.
Yeah.
Controversial one.
Oh, yeah, I suppose it is controversial, actually. It's kind of like Marmite, isn't it?
It puts a lot of people off when they figure out what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, today we're going to be covering the origins of probably the most quintessentially, or seemingly quintessentially Scottish food known to man, haggis.
Bloody haggis, man.
Was that Scottish?
You bloody want a haggis, man? Yeah. No.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Getting like Newcastle vibes a little bit from that.
Are ye hell, man? This is straight up bloody haggis.
Oh, that's a bit better. Yeah.
Alright.
Spot on.
Alright.
So Scotland isn't really famous for its cuisine, is it?
I mean, it's battered hot dogs, isn't battered hot dogs, battered sausages, battered.
You enjoy your battered hot dogs.
What is wrong with me tonight? Jesus Christ. Battered Mars bars. That's a thing, isn't it? In Scotland.
Yeah, man. Like, it's not famous due to its quality, though, is it? It's usually down to like how mad it is. Like you said,
How mad and weird.
Mars bars,
Yeah.
deep fried hot dogs, deep fried pizzas, that sort of shit. You got the likes of like Iron Brew, Buckfast, kind of famous. I've never actually tried Buckfast. I don't know if it's any decent, but Iron Brew.
It's nice. I like it.
You like it? You like Buckfast?
Yeah, it's good. Tonic wine. It's very sweet, but it's weirdly strong. Like it doesn't taste as strong as it is.
Is it not caffeinated?
It's got a bit of a reputation. Oh, it probably is.
It's a bit like Four Loko, like Scottish Four Loko.
Yeah, it is literally, and I think it's the combination of the high caffeine and the high alcohol content and the easiness at which it is to drink is the combination that sends many Scottish people west.
Yeah, west. It's got a bit of a fizz to it as well, isn't it? Like a light fizz.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting episode that because I've heard on the grapevine that it's made in a monastery.
Pun.
Apparently, like I don't know whether it still is today, but apparently at some point it was made in a monastery, maybe, or by monks or something, priests. I don't know.
Interesting.
Let's return to
We'll
Buckfast.
explore that one. Yeah, for sure. You ever eaten haggis, mate? Actually, no. I think I've been with you while you've eaten haggis. So
Yeah. I've had it a couple of times.
Thoughts, opinions?
It's a weird one because before I knew what it was, or what I think it was, I used to absolutely love it. I just used to eat loads of it, and then when I found out it was, I kind of subconsciously cut back on my haggis consumption, just because I still enjoyed the flavour of it. But I don't know. Whilst I was eating it, I was a bit like,
Man, I'm not really arsed about any of that shit. None of that shit phases me, really.
Just straight in there.
Yeah, just straight in there. I'll eat a fucking heart. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. I think I'm over it though.
Yeah.
Because when we went to Scotland for the stag do, I had the haggis Scotch egg, didn't I?
You did.
And I had no complaints scoffing that, did I?
No, you didn't. Bloody hell, yeah.
Not at all.
Breakneck
Not at all.
speed, getting that down the gullet. Bloody hell.
Yeah. Cut it open. Oh, bloody runny Jaeger as well, man.
Like Lewis Hamilton at the weekend, fucking getting that down, yeah. Off a speedy.
God,
I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way to order it, maybe, but I don't know. If I'm in the Highlands, it's on the menu. I'll sink a few haggis. I'll get it down me.
I had it once in between a chicken breast, in the middle of a chicken breast.
But you're going to be like in between courses. A palate cleanser of haggis, please.
Palate cleanser.
Sir, would you like a lemon sorbet or haggis?
Oh God. No, it wasn't a palate cleanser. It was in between a chicken breast, and then it had like a whiskey cream sauce on the chicken with roast potatoes and some vegetables, and it was a really good dish.
So what is haggis? So for anybody that doesn't know what haggis is Scotland's national dish, and it is a type of pudding composed of the liver, the heart, and the lungs of a sheep or other animal, which has been minced and mixed with kind of beef or mutton suet, oatmeal, and it's seasoned with onion, cayenne pepper, and kind of other spices, whatever you've got. That lovely lumpy mixture is then packed deep into a sheep's stomach.
God.
And boiled.
Boiled.
Yum.
Oh, it's got to be up there with the most medieval sounding dishes, isn't it, really?
Yeah. The worst bit of the description is the lung part, I think. I don't know why. Like the heart and the liver doesn't really bother me. Like if you ever been to like a Brazilian restaurant, the steakhouse, like chicken hearts on there, I'd eat that shit up. Great. Brilliant. Love it. Liver, not a bit too gamey for me, but I'll eat it. It's fine.
I like chicken livers in the Italian.
Yeah.
Italian chicken livers.
Yeah. Maybe. But lungs just give me like a nasty feeling. Like, you never just see lungs on the menu by themselves, do you?
No, it's the odd one that's in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've seen the others, but lung. It's going to be a liver texture, isn't it? Surely it's almost like it looks very similar.
Quite thin though, maybe. No,
yeah, I mean that's a weird part of it, but then also like stuffing all that into the stomach lining of a separate animal before you then boil it all.
Yeah, we'll get to the reason why for that in a bit, but
and the oats in it as well. I mean,
it's just to bulk it out, and it
helps it bind it all together.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I found an interesting quote that kind of perfectly describes haggis, and it's from the 2001 English edition of the Larousse Gastronomique, and it reads:
Although its description is not immediately appealing, haggis has an excellent nutty texture and delicious savoury flavour.
Pretty spot on, I'd say, with that.
Yeah, from a French, from a well-esteemed French cookbook.
Yeah, very nutty, despite having no nuts in it. Suspicious. Nutty lungs, maybe? Is it the lungs giving it that nut aroma?
Here's my hot take. I think it's the oats in it that give it the nutty.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Flavour.
Them famous nut oats. Yeah. So that's what haggis is, really. I mean, it's usually served up with a nice, healthy portion of chips or neeps and tatties, which is basically swede and potatoes roasted together. Hearty foods for a hearty clan, what haggis is.
Yeah, it's a Highland sounding dish.
Exactly. So that's it. That's what haggis is. Let's dive into the fucking interesting origins, shall we? Get into it.
Let's do it.
So in 2009, the world of haggis was rocked by a great controversy.
Sean Connery. Yeah.
Sean Connery enters the game with a great controversy.
He makes an appearance once in a while.
So, while most of us might think of it as the quintessentially Scottish dish, Catherine Brown, a Glasgow-born food historian, claimed to have discovered a cookery book from 1615, which proved that haggis was actually an English invention.
Oh, God.
You can imagine.
Don't say that, because that is just going to absolutely vex the hell out of the Scots.
Oh, mate, it did not go down well. I repeat.
I think they'd rather anyone in the world be the creators of haggis, apart from English.
Yeah, exactly. Like, her fellow Scots were absolutely outraged. There was no...
What the fuck do you mean?
The fuck do you mean? Englishmen created haggis. It's fucking...
Yeah, you're blasphemy. And if I could get my bloody hands around your neck in a minute... Oh, well.
The general consensus was that there was no way an Englishman could have come up with such gran. No way.
Yeah, we just wouldn't eat such horrible cuts of meat, would we?
Exactly. Horrible.
Yes. Do I look like a barbarian to you? Would I eat the lungs of a living thing? No.
No. Give me a tin scone. That's what I like in the afternoon.
Did you say a tinned scone?
A tin scone. Not hear me.
What are you saying?
Peasants.
A tuna scone?
A tin scone.
Tin.
Do not speak English, you plebeian of the lowest race.
It's afternoon tea, sir.
Anyway, yeah, the Scots weren't happy.
Yeah.
One Edinburgh haggis maker even went as far to say,
I didn't hear of Shakespeare writing a poem about haggis.
Oh, you went woman, did you? That was interesting.
I don't know why.
So in your head, a haggis maker is a woman. Interesting.
Yeah, obviously.
Why is that? Why? She's got them more delicate hands for...
Yeah, that's it. They've got the nice...
grip in the stomach.
Yeah, they've got nice thin hands to grip the insides of the stomach lining of the cow.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I can see your logic there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're also just barbaric, aren't they?
Them Scottish broads do anything.
What is the stomach lining? Which animal does the stomach lining part come from?
Whichever animal is around.
What have you got?
That's usually...
So, which stomach lining would you like? Whichever you can get your fucking hands on right now.
You got any camel? I enjoy mine in camel.
Is that your grandma? Yeah, alright.
Is Catherine right? Was it really an English invention that succeeded beyond the wall? To be honest, it's hard to say. Like like many of the other dishes that we've covered so far on What the Food, Haggis's origins are shrouded in mystery. There's really no telling when or where it came into being. Some historians believe that it was brought over by the Romans during the occupation between 43 AD and 410 AD.
Bloody hell.
And although there is kind of some evidence to support this, the evidence...
Can't prove it.
No, they can't prove it. The evidence is that their version, the Romans' version, is kind of made from pork rather than sheep. And it likely began as like a means of preserving meats during hunts. So like whenever you'd kill an animal, like you say you're hunting, pigs, hogs in the woods, right? You kill a hog in the wood, right? What are you going to do with it? You've got you fucking 50 miles away from camp. You're on foot. What are you going to do? If you just carry it back, it's going to go bad, isn't it? It's going to go horrid.
What do you mean? What are you going to do? I mean, there's a million things you could do except from mince it, add it with fucking grain, add spices, mince it, then get the stomach lining of a separate animal and stuff it into that, and then tighten it all up, get rid of the air bubbles, put it in boiling water. Tell me that's your only option, mate.
Yeah, that's your only option. If you want to eat offal, you've got to eat it straight away, right? Because offal goes bad quickly.
Yeah, it's the first bit that goes horrible.
Yeah. You want them lungs nice and hot when you tuck into them, don't you?
Yeah.
How do you like your lungs, mate? I like them nice and hot.
Okay, so maybe like a preservation method then.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are no air bubbles in that haggis. When you look at a piece of haggis, it's so tightly wrapped, and there's no air in there, is there?
Yeah, I know. No,
so
exactly.
you're not getting the oxygen to it. It's kind of quite well preserved, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like you can't just scran into your hot lungs in the middle of a field. It's not an easy thing to do, is it? So they obviously butcher the kill, chop up the offal, pack it in salt, contain it within the animal's stomach because you just got a free bag. Happy days.
It's an environmentally friendly bag.
Got yourself a little Roman era tote bag.
Roman era tote bag. Jesus. We've been here before. This is when I tried to have some kind of really, intellectual idea about us coming full circle with the environment. And didn't we? I somehow ended up on the idea of turning the middle aisle of Aldi into a fresh meat market, didn't I, at one point? But yeah, no, Roman tote bag.
Roman tote bag. Yeah. And then they boil the tote bag in a basin that they made from the hide of the animal. Let it cool, boom, you got yourself a little handy snack that would last for a couple of weeks. And that shit was bussin'. Fucking
shit was bussin'.
Scran that whenever you needed to.
Yeah, and I guess it's a least sought after part of the animal, isn't it? The offal and stuff. So they'll probably be taking those prime cuts back to town to sell or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can turn the bits that would normally be thrown to the dogs into something that's kind of palatable and
keep them going,
tasty,
so they can hunt more, get more meat, sell more meat, make more money. Capitalism. So that's the offalism. Should start a society that's just purely deals in offal. That's how we. That's the currency.
That is the currency of our land.
Yeah, just
offal.
Heart, lungs, livers, kidneys.
God, I think the medieval times was smelly.
Yeah,
our new creation is worse.
Yeah, exactly.
The currency of our land, offal.
Offal. Welcome to Offalonia.
Offalonia. Welcome to Offalonia. Everyone's bags full of offal.
Just stinks.
Open a purse, little bits of offal. Oh God.
Yeah, but the economy would keep going because offal would run out and would go bad, so you'd have to keep going.
You got to spend your money quick.
Yeah.
You can't save up.
No, you can't. There's no savings. There's no Vanguard ISA that you can fucking put your money into.
No.
No, the Vanguard ISA is a fucking freezer that we invent. That's how you can freeze your offal. Oh,
This is the most horrendous.
a 64 AD pig heart. Oh, this is aged well.
Yeah, yeah. You buy a castle with that. Comes with lots of offal space.
Offal space.
Yeah, and a dedicated offal man who just goes around collecting offal. Yeah, this is horrible what we've created.
Yeah, it is. Little kingdom. Very horrible. Offalonia, though. So that's the Roman.
Offalonia.
That's the Roman theory. There is another theory. So a Scottish butcher who has spent the past few years of his life basically researching haggis recipes and the origins of haggis, right? This guy argues that haggis dates back to the Viking invaders of the British Isles.
Ooh.
So kind of after, this is after the Romans now, and he is basically so in favour of this dish being invented by Vikings.
Yeah, it's just cooler, isn't it?
It is cooler. He also argues that the original ingredient that was used by the Vikings would be deer, not sheep.
Right, okay.
And kind of this kind of proto-haggis may have been imported from Scandinavia by the Vikings at some point between the 8th and 13th century when they were kind of raided.
So what's the sheep haggis would have been brought in, and up to that point they were making it with deer?
Deer, exactly, yeah, because obviously deer is native to
Scotland.
Scotland, yeah, exactly. Okay. There is some support in this. So in the Victorian era, there's a guy called Walter Skeat who suggested that the root of the word hag may have been derived from the Old Norse word hagwe or Old Icelandic word hogver, both of which mean to chop.
To chop, and it's all made of lots of finely chopped ingredients.
Exactly. So like the name would have been would have meant something like chopped up stuff, and obviously, like I said, referred to everything being chopped up and stuffed into the stomach.
Oh, that's a good clue. That's a good clue.
Yeah, and it makes sense really. Like if you stop and think about it, the offal of an animal is exactly the thing that a Viking was scran on for breakfast.
Well, absolutely. Any time of the day for a Viking.
And to get them through like stuff air raiding, they just feast on some lungs and off they went.
Yeah, takes a lot of energy raping and pillaging. You know, you have to keep yourself topped up with that stuff.
Exactly.
And offal is very nutritious, isn't it? You know, all jokes aside, it's like got a lot of the nutrients, minerals and vitamins and stuff is kind of kept in those iron. That's it. Yeah, a lot of the good stuff in your body's kind of housed in those parts.
Yeah, a lot of good. Sure. So Callahan himself has actually developed a deer-based haggis recipe,
right?
Which he calls Staggis.
Of course he does. Great name.
Brilliant. It's got my vote.
He wants to taste what the Vikings would have been tasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't go doing anything else the Vikings did, Joe Callaghan. All right, have your deer haggis, but
don't get any ideas.
Don't take it any further than that. All right.
So I actually found this quote from Joe Callaghan, and it reads:
"Deer is an indigenous species of Scotland. The Vikings brought haggis to Scotland. We are sure of this. My recipe is based on the original Viking recipe made with venison plucks, which I have tweaked a bit, so it's unique to me."
I bet. These plucks have been tweaked a bit, so it's unique to me.
It's French now.
Yeah, it's gone French.
Oh, Joe Callaghan. Okay, this guy's like super passionate about haggis.
Staggis, you mean?
Staggis, yeah. Hang about, Miles. What's that you're building there, Joe? It's a fucking long boat so I can get to Sweden. All right, cool. Anyway, hope your mum's well. See you, mate.
Enjoy. There's the Viking aspect. There is also another challenger who has entered the field. Other historians actually claim it was a French invention.
Oh, no.
Froggis, you could call it.
Jesus.
Yeah, man. So the famous Scottish novelist and historian Sir Walter Scott, not Wilter Scott, that's not a real name. The famous, why am I got developed a lisp over the past hour?
Are you eating marshmallows or something?
Yeah, I must be, man. Peanut butter, just fucking scoops of it. So, the famous Scottish novelist and historian Sir Walter Scott suggested that the word haggis may come from the French word haggis, which meant to chop or mince. Haggis, maybe? Haggis?
Oh.
It's H-A-C.
Haggis.
H-I-S.
Yeah.
Haggis.
Yeah, so it's spelt quite differently, but sounds very similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
it's a contender.
Yeah, it's an interesting claim, and the claim actually did gained some credence and has been repeated to this day. So if you think about it, given like the historically the strong relationship between France and Scotland, the so-called Allied Alliance, it is possible that some sort of precursor might have been brought over at some point after kind of 1295, so the 13th century. If you think about it, the French had a common enemy in the English.
I was going to say, why was that relationship so good? Is it just their shared hatred of England?
Yeah, man. Exactly. Yeah. Their shared hatred of England. So they're obviously trading a lot of alliances, trading culture between the two. So it's, could have been. It could have been. But who bloody knows, really? Could have been the Frogs, could have been the Vikings, could have been the Romans, could have been the English, or it could have been the Scottish.
Yeah. I'm going to have one of my moments here where I try and say something interesting, but actually just sound really stupid. But, English people do often hear people say, like, oh, God, French people. Ugh, French. Like, oh, God, French people are so annoying.
I think we've said that. We've said that on the podcast.
I've definitely said that. Yeah, publicly.
Yeah.
And I bet a lot of people have said that with having never met a French person before. And is that just, remnants of this historical hatred that's just kind of like rearing its ugly head within modern day culture? Even at this very menial level, a lot of people are not being super serious when they say they hate French people. It's often done in jest. But is that, a sort of a hangover of that historical relationship that we have with French people?
Could be. Yeah, no, I'm saying could be. 100% is. 100% is.
Yeah, because I'm sure, a lot of French people would joke and talk about the fact they hate English people.
Yeah, it definitely
modern day English versus French person has absolutely no real qualms.
No, it 100% is.
It's interesting, isn't it, that it has its roots?
It's definitely a hangover from history, for sure.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hot take.
Fuck the French. Milo's. After all that really like educated sounding shit. Hot take. Fuck the French.
Yeah, just straight back to some primary school shit. After all that. Oh, God. Well, we balance out the serious talk on this podcast, don't we, with a bit of humour?
We do, mate. We do.
That's what we do.
We do. Well, whatever of these theories you believe in, one thing is clear. None of them are really that compelling. At the root of them, they're kind of all based on speculation.
Is that because this is kind of like so old? Haggis is such a sort of historical dish that it's almost gone into the realms of us struggling to find, definitive proof of its conception.
I think so, yeah.
Those dishes that are kind of more recent are easier to kind of hone in on, aren't they, in a way?
Exactly. And also given the fact that like sausage-like dishes are found throughout Europe from like an super early date. So
that information kind of just crosses its lines,
exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly. It's like, like if you think about it as well, like a small amount of the population can actually read and write. So why would and the people that can write are like super high importance people in the upper echelons of society. Why are they writing about haggis?
They're
writing about like the world and like Pythagoras' theorem and like the meaning of life. They're not writing about some offal wrapped in a Roman tote bag.
No, that's left to the discussions of cooks and household peasants and stuff, isn't it? Just cracking on and making stuff.
They can't fucking write shit, so
yeah.
Anyway, so it's uncertain, but it's made with sheep byproducts. If it was made with sheep byproducts as it is today, then it could have been prepared almost anywhere in Europe at the time because everyone had sheep. So I do what I normally do, and I try and find the earliest known reference to the dish that we're covering. And the earliest known reference I was able to find to a dish that is kind of recognisably similar to haggis actually comes from England.
Right. Okay.
And it was referenced in a book that we have come across before on the podcast called The Form of Curry.
Yes, because it sounds like curry and you think it's curry, but it's not, is it?
No, you think it's going to be a book full of kind of tikka masalas and
tandoors. And
but no, it's not. It's not. So this book was published in 1390, so super old. And it was a cookery book written by the chief master cooks of Richard II. So although the reference is a long way away from modern haggis, this recipe calls for grated meat to be cooked in a pig's caul, which is basically a stomach. And the recipe was actually for a dish called raysoles. I think it's raysoles. And basically what it involved is forming balls of minced pig offal, bread, cheese and spices, coating them in egg yolk and spices, and then baking them. Kind of like a cursed meatball, really.
Why cursed?
Well, like pig offal. Imagine biting into a fucking meatball and it's full of pig offal.
Well, true, but you said yourself you're into it, so...
I know, but like if someone goes, oh, what are you making for dinner? Spaghetti and meatballs. I'm not expecting the meatballs to be made fucking offal, lad.
That's a deep flavoured meatball.
Oh, it's proper gamey, this meatball. What'd you say this was?
Oh, did I forget, Andy? It's awful. Eat up. Oh god. So you said bread as well in there. Is that like to help combine it? As the meatball.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Putting bits of bread in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Help keep it together.
Bind it all together.
But the fact that it was mentioned, in the form of curry suggests that it was kind of a delicacy, to grace the royal table, given that, it's the chief master cookbook after all, and the fact that it's in there. Yeah. Pretty impressive.
The aristocrats are eating this, but obviously in a more kind of prepared fashion, aren't they, in a way?
Yeah, I imagine peasants aren't putting bread. Well, maybe they are putting bread, but they're not putting cheese and spices in it, I imagine.
No, it's a waste, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Around 40 years later, the word haggis or hagwas made its first appearance in a hagwash. It made its first appearance in a Middle Ages English recipe. Again, this was rather kind of a rich dish featuring the womb of a sheep rather than the stomach.
Fucking hell. Is this just a test to choose the most grim parts of an animal to make something of? For God's sake, what's it? In the womb?
In the womb. The womb of a sheep. Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake. I mean, I don't know if it's true, but I guess when you're wrapping it in, it needs to be wrapped in something for a start, for it to be boiled, to be contained and preserved and boiled. But also, like, by wrapping it in a meat item, like a stomach lining or womb or something, there's an opportunity there for even more flavour to just kind of seep into it, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I guess there's a flavour decision there as well as...
It's got to be, yeah.
One that's using up, stuff that you would normally throw away.
Yeah. I mean, what else could you use? Womb, stomach...
Arse, cavity.
Foreskin, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got one.
Shout out circumcision. Shout out.
I think we've covered it pretty much. I think arse cavity's got a lot of flavour packed into it for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, nevertheless, this this technique is it's kind of a precursor to the modern descendant, and I have found the technique.
Right.
It's in Old English, and I think you've tried to read a few Old English things before, Miles. So
fuck off.
You're going to be fluent now. So enjoy this, listeners. Here is the recipe of how to make this rich womb haggis dish, read by Miles Dickinson.
Right. Take pepopis with pepatala and parboil hem, pam hake hem small, grained pepper and saffron, and brede, and golkis of yeroon, and raw creme, or sweet milk, do al gredis, and do in pigrete womb of pishepe, patis the marwe, and pan sep him and srui for fin.
That's not bad, actually. Good effort. I mean, you didn't stand a chance, but you fucking pulled out of the bag there.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's pretty good, mate. Pretty good. I mean, some of the words, you can kind of see how this language is kind of evolved into what we speak today. You've obviously got the parboil hem.
Parboil hem, yeah. Grind, G-R-Y-N-D, grind, and it's pepper, P-E-P-I-R, grind pepper. Saffron, is that there?
Yeah, saffron, yeah. And bread.
Bread, B-R-E-D-E.
Yolks of chicken.
Golkis. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Golkis of yeroon.
Raw cream and sweet milk.
Sweet milk.
Don't know what that word is.
Womb of the sheep.
Yeah.
Coming up to.
Yeah, and then serve forth.
Serve forth. Yeah. Him and srew forth yin. Yeah, we'd survive.
I think so.
In that period, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we'd be right.
100%. So, haggis next features in the Promptorium Parvolorum, which was published in 1440 by a bilingual English-Latin dictionary. It is a bilingual English-Latin dictionary, and it is attributed to a bloke called Geoffrey the Grammarian, which is a brilliant name.
Geoffrey the Grammarian.
It's grammar. Grammarian.
Grammarian.
Geoffrey the Grammarian.
Yeah.
Incredible
cool
title.
Name.
Incredible, isn't it? One of the best I've come across, actually.
I am Geoffrey the Grammarian.
Isn't it? Brilliant name.
Yeah.
Just goes around correcting people's grammar.
Put a comma there. Hyphen, mate.
Fuck's sake. Geoffrey's here.
Yeah. Looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Full stop, Daniel.
Do you really need a comma there, sir?
Yeah.
Anyway, no recipe is given by Mr. Grammar, but it is defined for the first time as a pudding.
Pudding,
yeah. So it's Puddynge. I think we've come across it before in our
Spotted Dick
episode. Exactly, spot on.
Yeah.
And it was almost certainly made of sheep, given their importance to the local economy. I forgot to say that Geoffrey was a Norfolk friar, so he's from Norfolk, and that is where he was based. And obviously, sheep are were a big part of the economy. I'm not sure if they still are. Do they have sheep in Norfolk still? Probably, right?
Probably. Probably. You get sheep fucking everywhere now, don't they? Everybody loves fucking sheep.
Yeah, pandemic.
There is an old abbey not far from here that me and Joe went to, and apparently the monks that settled there made an absolute fortune from wool products because they had an abundance of sheep near the monastery, and they just turned it into like a fucking absolute... They just turned out to be amazing entrepreneurs, basically, and they created a wool empire. So yeah, can be done.
Can be done, definitely. So given Geoffrey's background of being a monk, there is no doubt that haggis was enjoyed by the ordinary folk as well as by kings. Obviously previously we saw it in the form of curry, now it's kind of branched out a little bit. But despite Geoffrey and his grammar skills, we should be careful on reading too much into these texts. They all came from England, and despite this, it doesn't necessarily mean that haggis was invented in England or that it was kind of unknown elsewhere in the British Isles. Again, not everyone is writing books at this point, barely anybody in the country can read, in fact. So yeah, just something to consider.
Take it with a pinch of salt.
Exactly. There is another further recipe though found in the Liber Corcorium, which was actually produced in Lancashire.
Whoa, shout out.
Yeah, shout out. At some point in the mid 15th century, so there can be no doubt that it was eaten in the north of England as well. And given that the border with Scotland was kind of fluid, back then, it's not inconceivable that it was also enjoyed north of the Tweed as well. But again, they didn't write about it. But yeah, it's not until 1513 that haggis is actually attested in an identifiable Scottish text. So now we're getting to the bit where it's Scotland. I mean, super fleetingly as well. So it's featured in a verse by William Dunbar, who was a poet. He's still alive. Yeah, he's 600 years old. Still
knocking about. You old.
So yeah, it's not until 1513 that haggis is attested in an identifiably Scottish text, and it comes.
So this is when we can say it's like no doubt actual haggis that they're referring to, not a variation of, or
exactly, yeah, and it's enjoyed in Scotland, yeah, for sure. So it's featured in a verse by William Dunbar, who was a poet associated with the court of James the Sixth, and the verse goes as follows.
Thy foul front had, and he that bar Tilmo flayed. The gallows gapis fear thy gracellis gruntil, as thou wold for an haggis hungry gled.
No idea what it means. Some sort of poem, middle-aged poem, but last verse, haggis. Hungry.
Yes. As thou wold for an haggis, as thou wold. Is that like I seek haggis?
Yeah, maybe.
I am very hungry. Yeah. Or are we just misreading it and he's actually saying, foul fucking putrid haggis, get this shit away from my face.
This is definitely not Scottish. Please never consider it Scottish.
Stinky shit. Don't want it.
Maybe Dunbar. Maybe. But even after this, like, there's no sense of it being claimed as Scottish, as distinctively Scottish, like, or even English. In fact, it was just something that people just scranned,
Yeah, because no one fucking wants it. You have it.
Yeah.
No, you have it.
No, you have it. And it's like for the next century-ish, haggis kind of remained culturally non-specific. Like I said, people kind of just ate it everywhere.
Yeah.
And as Catherine Brown, the lady we mentioned at the beginning, rightly pointed out, it's found in Gervase Markham's book called English Housewife, which was written and published in 1615, and it's a book of recipes and remedies, which went on to be kind of something of a bestseller.
You might get Joe that for Christmas.
Yeah, get fucking back in that kitchen, lad. I think we've actually spoken about this book before, The English Housewife.
Yeah, it's ringing a bell.
Yeah, I can't remember what episode it was, but I think we have spoke about it. But yeah, so it's featured in there, and it's also featured in Thomas Hobbes' translation of Homer's Odyssey, where it was used to translate kind of a Greek version of a similar thing, which was the Greek version was obviously like much nicer. But
the whole world at this point in history had access to these ingredients, didn't they? There's nothing that's unobtainable about what goes into haggis at this point. Yeah. So it's no surprise that there'd be kind of like very similar variations of it, in different parts of the world without having ever kind of those people crossed paths as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So when did this Scottish dish become Scottish then? When did it happen?
Don't know, when they started serving it in every restaurant there is in Scotland.
That was it. That was the catalyst. No, the catalyst was actually the first people to identify haggis as Scottish were not the Scots. It was the English. Right. Always meddling in their affairs.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah, so there are two reasons for this. So the first was a shift in patterns of consumption. So basically, by the end of the 17th century, the English diet had begun to change. You've got the agricultural revolution sweeping the country. Productivity has increased dramatically. There's a wider range of better quality produce available to more and more people.
Right.
This drastically reduced the market for offal. Nobody wanted to eat that shit. Why would you eat offal when you've got a fresh
ribeye?
Okay, yeah, ribeye as well. I was thinking more like the peasant. The peasant's not scranning ribeye, is he? He's scranning like
carrots,
cabbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not eating.
Yeah,
Wagyu. And although offal continued to be eaten, especially in kind of the poorer sections of society, it was no longer a food of first resort. Because of this, dishes like haggis began to go out of fashion, and they went out of fashion quickly.
Yeah.
In Scotland, however, precisely the opposite process took place. The late 17th century had been a period of economic decline for Scotland. 7 years of a severe famine have been followed by a devastating crash in the market, brought on by a mad attempt to establish a Scottish colony on the Gulf of Darien, which is near modern Panama. Yeah, I didn't know about this. I don't know if you knew about this.
No. So what, Scotland were trying to branch out and create a little bit of an empire for themselves?
Yeah, exactly. So the Gulf of Darien was the site of the Darien Scheme, which was a Scotland's one and only attempt at colonialism.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they sent out 5 ships to St. Andrew, the Caledonia, the Unicorn, the Dolphin, and the Endeavour. They set sail on July 14th. 1698 with around 1,200 people on board.
Wow.
Their orders were to proceed to the Bay of Darien and make the isle called the Golden Island some few leagues to the leeward of the mouth of the great river Darien, and there make a settlement on the mainland. That was their orders.
So where is this in the world?
Panama. So Central America.
Okay. God, that's a trek for Scotland.
Yeah, man. Very far away.
Do you want to start kind of take Greenland first, maybe, and then move over? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hot in Panama. And imagine a load of pasty ass fucking Scottish people arriving.
God. Turning up after a massive voyage over there.
Yeah, sunburnt to fuck. Yeah.
Have you got any haggis? I'm bloody starving, man.
Yeah. Playing bagpipes the whole way.
Yeah. Oh god. And that failed, did it? That didn't go to plan.
No, it didn't go well, mate. When they landed on the shores, they christened their new home New Caledonia, and basically they wanted to emulate the success that the East India Trading Company had, in India, obviously. Little insight, didn't go well at all, in fact. Due to the completely different climate from Glasgow to Panama, the elevation as well, and the fact that they
higher than sea level.
Yeah, higher than sea level, and the fact that they
obviously.
No, they settled in Atlantis. They found it.
They found it. Fucking hell.
The Scottish rule Atlantis now.
No, I meant higher than Scotland.
Come into Poseidon's temple, will you? Sit down.
Me bloody haggis is wet through.
Just how I like it.
Just how I like it. I know, I just meant, is it?
Yeah, it was high, mate.
Higher?
Yeah, it was high, higher than Scotland, yeah. They couldn't grow shit because of the elevation, and the soil was completely different. Nobody wanted to trade with them because they were white people and Scottish. The colony didn't do well, and the colony itself was actually abandoned in July 1699. So they set sail in 1698 and they abandoned it in 1699. So they didn't really put that much of a shift in.
No.
They left behind 6 men who were too weak to move. They just left them on the island.
Right.
And the deaths continued on the ships on the way home. And when they arrived back, there was just 300 left.
Oh my God. From how many at the beginning?
1,200.
Wow. That is a failure.
No great. No great.
Not great. Did they bring any treasure back at least or anything?
No,
for their trouble?
Sand.
Just sand and
bodies.
Death, wet fucking haggis, man.
Yeah, mate. Not great.
Jesus.
Great. So this kind of act obviously needed to be funded and it didn't go well. So it devastated their economy. It was a big crash. Yeah, I mean, back to mainland Scotland. So around kind of the beginning of the 18th century. So kind of 1707. That's when the Act of Union with England was passed, which basically kind of joined them to almost like the precursor to the UK in a way.
Right, okay.
So this is where kind of Scotland basically joins up with England for probably the first time in a while.
And were they sort of benefiting from the prosperity that England were experiencing at the time?
Exactly, yeah. But
to help them get out of this situation.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, basically Scotland had nowhere else to turn, so they turned to England because they needed help.
Right.
Because their economy was in the toilet. But the gains were unevenly felt throughout the country. You saw many landlords saw their incomes grow as a result of, enclosure and the introduction of kind of modern farming techniques. But many poorer tenants whose rents were kind of increased found themselves priced out of their homes by the commercialization of agriculture. You're getting these kind of wealthy landlords coming in, which have kind of bigger purse strings so they can afford better equipment for farming, and they just come in and be like, I'm going to buy your farm because I can farm it better than you, take this.
And probably give them an offer that they can't really refuse at that point either.
Exactly, yeah. So without kind of land or livelihood, their living conditions declined massively, and this served to increase the popularity of haggis. Since its ingredients were all inexpensive, it was something that even the poorest could afford.
Right. So it comes back to necessity, doesn't it?
Exactly. So while haggis had virtually disappeared in England from the mid 18th century, it was booming in Scotland. Booming.
Right.
So that's the first reason. The second, and probably most important reason, was political. Yeah. So not long after the Act of Union, the United Kingdom was hurting from the Jacobite risings, which was basically like a series of attempts made by the descendants of the deposed James II to regain the throne. It was like a revolt, basically, against the English.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah. So although these
like a civil war situation in England?
Yeah, exactly. And although these kind of revolts had been crushed, they had left an unpleasant taste in the mouth of the English. And among the English, there was a profound resentment to all things Scotland. Right. So these Jacobite risings were in Scotland as well, I might add.
I was going to say, it just sounded like they were like, we're having loads of issues at home.
No,
Scottish.
No.
Nothing to do with it.
It was the Act of Union where they joined together. Not long after that, that's when the Scots started kicking off.
Okay.
And they fucked things up for the English for a while, so the English were annoyed with the Scots. And while they were kind of happy enough to welcome, well-born Scots into English society and held, Scottish soldiers in high esteem, they regarded most Scots, especially Highlanders, with contempt.
Yeah. Money talks, doesn't it? You got money, you're all right.
Exactly. Attacks were continually published in the press, and cartoons depicting Scots as godless barbarians began to appear and became the norm. It was fun to make fun of the Scots.
Yeah.
Poor old Scots. And part of the ways they made fun was food. Food was a common focus, and that given there was kind of thought to be a close connection between scran and character, the perceived poverty of Scottish was used to kind of derail and mock their manhood and even the humanity. They dissed them for what they put in their mouths, basically.
But I mean, back then it's so important, isn't it? Like nowadays we've got cars and houses and these big things that are kind of status symbols, but back then really the kind of food you ate was the biggest status symbol, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Perhaps the best known example of this was by a bloke called Samuel Johnson, who wrote a dictionary in 1755, and Johnson defines oats as
a grain which in England is generally given to horses, but in Scotland supports the people.
What a sick burn. I can feel the burn here, all these years in the future.
Bloody hell, Samuel. These people need a break, man.
Mental. Samuel Johnson, aka Dr. Johnson, is famously remembered as the writer of the first comprehensive English dictionary, which, as I said, was published in 1755. And he is also well known for his poor opinion on the Scots and Scotland itself.
Yeah.
He once remarked,
"The noblest prospect which a Scotchman ever sees is the high road that takes him to England."
Good one, Johnson.
Good one, Johnson. Oh, how's your slave doing anyway?
Dead again.
Oh, God, these pesky slaves keep dying, don't they? God, I've got to keep forking out for more.
Sick burn, though. Sick burn. Dr. Johnson's a stone cold killer. Absolutely killer.
So the highest prospect for a Scottish man is the idea of going to England.
The road that leads into England. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've always been at each other's throats, always. A tale as old as time. Haggis. Haggis was a natural target for the English to attack. Given that it was now a rare sight in England, English critics felt justified in characterizing it as a specifically Scottish dish, and they basically kind of defined it as somehow uncivilized. So in Tobias Smollett's The Expedition of Humphrey Clinker, which was published in 1771, I didn't actually look into what this book is, but I think it's like a book.
That's a mad title.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? It's a book of fiction, I think, and there is one character in it, and he's travelling through Scotland, and he's basically talking with his English correspondent, and he hastily reassures him that
I am not yet Scotchman enough to relish their singed sheep's head and haggis.
So it's starting to be used in fiction now, and it's starting to be used in English fiction to
describe the Scottish culture.
Pat them down as well. Yeah, basically, if you're English, you hate the Scottish because they're poor.
Yeah, this is what it seems, yeah. And you're using haggis as the kind of metaphor for that.
Yeah, you hate haggis because it's a poor Scottish food.
Yeah, literally. Oh, God.
Harsh, really.
We're
That's
horrible.
the Empire, innit?
We're horrible.
Yeah, it's the Empire for you, lad.
Yeah.
The Scots were not the sort to take this line down. Their pride may have been wounded, as much by the defeat of the Jacobite Rising, but they made a conscious effort to define themselves as different from the English. And they made a conscious effort to claim haggis as their own with pride. Basically, pulled an Uno reverse card. That's what they did. They were like, like when you're getting bullied by somebody and they're bullying like your shit haircut or something, and then you go, well, I know my hair's shit, but you're a proper, your mum doesn't love you. Yeah, something like
exactly.
That. Yeah, they just played into it. The most kind of telling expression of this was Robert Burns's address to haggis, which was written in 1786. And here, Burns is basically acknowledging that there was a connection between food and character, but turned it into the Scots' advantage. While other nations might have their ragu, he argued that that sort of food only turned a man into a weakling.
Right.
And the Scots had like manly food that turned them into men. I mean, it's pretty long, the actual whole thing, but I've here's a couple of verses just to kind of give you an idea as to what bars Burns was spitting.
But mark the rustic haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds his tread. Clap in his wally, navy a bleed. He'll make a whistle, and legs and arms, and heads will sned, like traps of thistle. Ye powers wa mak mankind your care, and dish them out their billow fare. Old Scotland, what's nice skinking way, that jops in luggies. But if we wish her grateful prayer, gie a haggis.
Gie a haggis. And then everyone goes, ow, ow, ow.
Ow.
But yeah, basically saying that haggis is a sort of food real men were made of. Those who ate it made the earth resound with their tread and could cut the heads off their enemies as easily as if they were the tops of thistles. If the English wanted to sneer at it, then that was their business. But they better watch their backs because the Scots were going to get them.
Too right.
Too right. Fucking back down. Haggis's association with Scotland was well consolidated by the 19th century. Once again, it's the English who provided the spur for this. After so many years of animosity between the two nations, George IV decided to try and heal the wounds by making a grand visit to Scotland in 1822. His stay in Edinburgh was choreographed by Walter Scott, who was so anxious to make Scotland attractive, he effectively invented a new tradition of Scottishness. At the banquet, thrown in the King's honour, everyone was decked out in tartan, previously preserved only in the Highlands and the Islands of Scotland. It wasn't really worn before this in the rest of Scotland, and care was taken to select the foods that reflected Scottish identity, haggis being one of them.
Right.
Scott smashed it, as George's visit ignited a craze, basically, for all things Scottish. Tartan became the height of fashion. A memorial to William Wallace was erected in Stirling. Robert Burns was honoured with a national festival, spoke about, and Burns suppers became major events, and haggis was eaten in ever-growing quantities since his visit.
So it backfired on the English. They thought they were taking the piss, and they ended up creating a booming economy based on haggis.
I don't know if George was wanting to take the piss. I think he was actually legitimately trying to heal the wounds, but it looks like he was trying to heal the wounds, and it basically just gave Scotland a really big bump. But so since this, haggis was kind of widely recognised as a national dish of Scotland, and the rest, as they say, is history. Haggis's origins will always be controversial, but as long as there are Burns suppers, there will be people arguing over whether the great chieftain is really Scottish. And unless some mad new evidence comes to light, I don't think the question will ever be answered, really. Origins of haggis.
So next time you tuck into your meaty mush that's been wrapped in the stomach lining of whatever animal you could get your hands on, think back to this podcast. And now you know.
Yeah.
What an interesting episode. Because, sometimes we go into these and the origin stories are quite definitive, and we know, we know the exact story or the people that led to the creation of a dish. And I remember when we first started out with the podcast, a lot of the episodes started out and they were contested, weren't they? There was usually a few different like competing stories for the origin of these dishes. But it's been a while since we've done one where it's been a bit obscure, whether we've not known, who created it or the definitive sort of story behind behind its inception. So it's quite nice to have played around with a few different ideas and seen which one we thought sticks.
Yeah, for sure. Fascinating.
So there you go, haggis. Going into that, I had absolutely no idea. And, like we said before, I've eaten it a few times and never really thought about the history of it and, why. Because, it's always been something that's a strange dish. It's always been something that I've thought is a strange dish, and the way it's created and the way you cook it is very strange, but never just had the thought to try and find out why. So now I know. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating. You can rate us on Spotify now. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts, and I think the ratings really help with popping up on other people's pages and helping spread the good word of the Lord.
Drop us an email as well if you want us to cover a specific dish. Drop us an email at whatthefoodpodcast@gmail.com. It can be your favourite food, it can be your nan's favourite food, it can be your dog's favourite food or drink.
Imagine an episode on pedigree dog food.
Oh, that'll be a nice
My
one.
dog loves pedigree. Do that.
Jesus, we said we'd do it. For fuck's sake.
We're gonna get some clever sod messaging in and be like, do water.
Yeah, exactly.
My favourite drink's water. Do water.
Yeah. God, that would be a boring episode, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe not. Maybe try and choose one you think's kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah, choose a good one. Don't give a shit one.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You suggest whatever you want.
No, I am, because I've got to do the fucking research. Do a good one.
Well, I've got to sit for hours and listen to us fucking chatting about it.
Oh, yeah, true.
Nah, joking. We both put the shifts in. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for listening, guys. Much appreciated. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another episode. Thank you for coming.
See you then.
See you then.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.